All India Radio. Seithikadambam.
சென்னையில் நடைபெற்ற G20 தொடர்பான மூன்றாவது பேரிடர் பாதிப்பு குறைப்புக்கான பணிக்குழு கூட்டத்தில் சுற்றுச்சூழல் மற்றும் காலநிலை மாற்ற அமைச்சகம் மேற்கொள்ளவிருக்கும் பணிகள் குறித்து விளக்கினார் அமைச்சகத்தின் கூடுதல் செயலர் திருமதி ரிச்சா சர்மா. அவர் பேசும்போது,
We'll have a live pavilion in Chennai also, which is Lifestyles for Environment. It's been great interest to the delegates that are coming because they're curious about what is Mission Life, what can be the possible impact of small behavioral changes on problems as big as the environment and climate. So that's the pavilion that we will have for the ministers to also see this time. There will be a pavilion on Project Tiger. We've recently marked 50 years of Project Tiger. And so and it's been one of the most successful species conservation efforts. And we'll also have 13 pavilions on handicrafts at this Chennai meeting. For the ministers and the G20 delegates, there will be a thematic site visit to the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Mahabalipuram with a projection and the dance show. This is expected to give, as I mentioned, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. All the ministers will get to see this event. We expect to develop the G20 high-level principles for a sustainable and resilient blue or ocean-based economy. So the ocean-based economy has many things. For example, there is aquaculture, there is shipping and ports, there is obviously fisheries, there is beach tourism, there is ocean-based energy sources. So there are multiple ocean economic sectors, and there are, of course, competing demands on the coastal and marine space, and how to undertake those activities sustainably so that the ocean economy thrives and flourishes. So these principles are meant to be used by the G20 countries on a voluntary basis. But also, across the three thematic areas, many presidency technical documents are being prepared. The work of the G20, it may appear that it is happening in a conference-based mode alone in meeting halls, but what is the technical work leading up, assisting those discussions? So this is a reflection of all the technical work that is being undertaken across the three thematic priorities. It's very important for any G20 presidency to ensure that the discussions in the G20 are consensus-driven, they have to be comprehensive and integrated, inclusive and action-oriented. We are a group of developed and developing countries, and there are different national priorities and national circumstances. And therefore, it's very important that the decisions we take, the outcomes that we develop are developed through an inclusive and a consultative process. So this just shows the sequence in which our work has been progressing. We've had virtual meetings as well as 3 physical meetings in the 3 working groups, but we've together done about 300 hours of virtual meetings as well from February till now. So all of that has gotten into the development of these technical documents and other outcome documents. Officials or the delegates will complete all the work, and then this will be presented to the ministers on the next day on the ministerial. There is an extremely important side event that is being on the launch of the REC Industry Resource Efficiency and Circular Economy Industry Coalition. There would be interventions by the ministers on the 3 thematic priorities that have been identified by the Indian G20 presidency. We will have keynote speeches from 5 speakers. So there isn't a full-time, executive secretary at this time. The official holding the charge, there'll be a keynote speech from the CBD as well. And in the CBD, it's extremely important that in December, the historic Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework has been adopted. India, with discussions of the ministers, feature the biodiversity issue in a big way. So an address by the CBD will be extremely important. So we have extensive participation at the ministerial level for our meeting. India has invited many guest countries, 9 of them, and 12 international and regional organizations. And all of these perspectives of the guest countries and of the international and regional organizations, add a lot of depth to the discussions within the G20. And you can see that all the important international organizations, such as the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the UNFCCC, the CBD, the Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, MDBs like Asian Development Bank, World Bank, the International Renewable Energy Agency, all of these international and UN agencies whose work is relevant to the Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group have been invited to participate in the Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group meetings. We had participation of 124 at the first working group meeting. Then it rose to 130 in the second meeting, 139 in the third meeting. And for this fourth and final meeting in Chennai, we already have a registration of 190 delegates. And for the ministerial meeting, because the ministers would also join in, 225 persons overall would be attending. So we think that the success of the presidency also, the physical meetings of the G20 have only resumed recently. So we think it's an indication of success, the level of participation and interest that we have been able to secure for the thematic priorities that we are driving.
இக்கூட்டத்தில் பங்கேற்று பேசினார் மத்திய வனத்துறை கூடுதல் தலைமை இயக்குநர் திரு பிவாஷ் ரஞ்சன். அவர் பேசுகையில்,
One of the thematic area for the G20 meeting under the Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group is the land restorations, accelerating ecosystem-based approach, and biodiversity conservations. It also includes water conservations. So for the first time in the G20 countries meeting, the priority of the landscapes have been chosen to get it restored ecologically till the establishment of keystone species. So drivers of the restoration has been chosen like forest fire affected areas and the mine impacted areas. The rationale behind choosing these two landscapes is the gradual increase of the forest fire incidences since last decades and the loss of forest cover and tree cover from the wildfire has gone up many folds. Not only India is affecting, but the global, all the countries are affecting from the forest fire. Similarly, on the mine impacted areas, the mined out area is not being properly reclaimed. So how these mine reclamations can be accelerated? These two are the primary priority thematic area for ecological restorations. And the best part of this G20 meeting is we have collated the information on the best practices of these areas from all the countries, and we are coming with the compendium on how these other countries are able to restore the thematic priorities landscapes. We have also come about the two structural tools and functional tools to get it monitored voluntarily that how these degraded landscapes are being restored. This is the first G20 meeting after the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So how this Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework is being adopted, mapped, and biodiversity enrichment is being done. So entire G20 country was in the consensus that mapping of the targets of the GBF or Global Biodiversity Framework has to be done through G20, and we are successfully mapped the targets vis-a-vis landscape restorations. And the third major aspect in this area is how to monitor that whether the land is being restored. Again, India is championed in restoring the landscapes through restoring the keystone species as the indicators. We have the successful launch of the Project Tiger, Project Lion, Project Elephant. So the keystone species in any of the landscape, if it is established, then we claim that the degraded land is restored. So these are the basic themes of this area, and we are achieving towards the end of these thematic priorities.
இத்துடன் இன்றைய செய்திக் கதம்பம் நிறைவு பெறுகிறது.